Okay. Okay, I can see some viewers. Can you just very quickly type if you can see us? And Gosha, you are here, so you can probably say if you can see me. And if you can see me in good position, I'm adding you, Gosha. Perfect.
Right.
Is it better?
That was good. Now you are the right position. Everything is right. Now I'm checking on the computer how it looks.
Because I can also see you well now when we are sharing the screen. So we are in a position we should be in.
That's correct. We are indeed. So very quickly, let's just go back.
Feedback from the viewers is that now it's super. So I guess it's super. We should trust the viewers.
Okay, that's fantastic. So yeah, perfect. We can go.
Okay, perfect. Let's go. Let's do it again. So welcome everyone, and really sorry for the technical glitches, I should call it, I guess. Let me do a very quick introduction of myself, and then, as you can see, we have a special guest, and I will pass over to my special guest. So my name is Ania Iwanicka. I am a holistic health coach, and I dedicate my work to women. My mission is to make every woman that I work with feel better and improve health and well-being of every woman I work with. Holistic health coaching is the reason it's called health coaching is that we are trying to support the person to make changes to improve their well-being. The reason we call it holistic is because it addresses many key areas of our lives. So it would address nutrition, it would address toxicity in our environment, be it the water we drink or cosmetics we are using. And in case of us ladies, this is might sometimes be a big concern, but also our physical movement, exercise. Are we exercising, not exercising? What kind of exercise we do? Also sleep, relaxation, and relationships. So these are the areas, and every single person will need a specific and different and varied approach, because we are all very, very unique, and therefore this is highly customized, I should say. What else I can add here is that coaching is not about prescribing you the way you should eat or behave or sleep. It's about guiding you, okay? It's guiding and supporting. I share the information to enable you to make a lasting change. You might have very different goals. Your goal may be weight loss, and weight loss, the way I do it, is not through a specific diet, is through making changes to your diet. You are free to make the choices, but there is nothing that is prescribed and you follow breakfast, dinner, and or lunch. Then you may have a specific health condition. Very many ladies nowadays suffer from things like autoimmune conditions or thyroid conditions. And these conditions are very highly influenced by, again, our environment. The food we eat, the type of exercise we do, and also our emotions. And this is actually something we will talk about today. And also, I should add that, of course, nowadays we are bombarded with information about nutrition, what is good, what is not good. The shops are full of foods that scream healthy foods. And, you know, there's a lot of confusing information out there. So I kind of distill this information and then share it with you, make it easier for you to follow. And again, I believe it's so important to share it with women, because women, being mothers, are then able to introduce healthier foods to their households and make their family healthier and happier. So this is it from me. I would just like to probably add that today, Facebook Live is the first in the series. I decided to launch a series which is Better You by Ania Wellbeing series. And this series will consist of a number of interviews. I'm aiming for one interview a fortnight with experts from health and well-being area. There will be guests, of course, as I just said, and today we have our first guest. And it's my great pleasure that Gosia agreed to be here with us tonight. So Gosia Gurna is a transformational coach and an author of a great book that I read as soon as it came out, probably, The Expansion Game, and maybe you can even see it in the background. Gosia, if you would like to please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ania. No, the book is not visible because it's cut in half, but it's okay. Oh, yes, you can show everybody how my... Yes, it's called, yeah, The Expansion Game. Thank you. So, as Ania said, yes, I'm a transformational coach, but I think it's more relevant to mention that for over 20 years, I've been working with women with breast cancer. So I had a great privilege and great honor to work with women in a very special, you should say, complementary medicine center in London, where I have seen thousands of women over the years. And the conversations that we have had over the years were always about emotions and about what things in their lives they found very difficult, challenging, stressful, even unbearable, to the point that they would rather die. So when I have actually seen so many women and I've seen some similarities, I believe that I have some form of common knowledge or information that will be available to everybody else and helpful to everybody else, yes? About how our emotions can actually affect our body and what we can do about approaching them, really, to make ourselves a bit more healthy, more joyful, and live longer, and not just live longer, but live really, really well.
Okay, thank you, Gosia. Great introduction. So, since it is an interview, I will be asking questions. My first question is around the fact that we have heard for years and years and years, and conventional medicine, I believe, is still repeating this, that our genes are our destinies. So whatever disease our grandmothers, grandfathers, parents had, we would be susceptible to, or even destined to get at some stage in our lives. Fortunately, functional medicine, which I'm a huge fan of, and that is becoming very popular nowadays, has actually, flipped it on the head and says, your genes are like a loaded gun. What, however, pulls the trigger is the environment you live in. Environment being the things I've mentioned before. So the food we eat, the water we drink, whether we exercise or we don't exercise, the toxins around us, but also our mind. Finally, also medicine is connecting mind and body. Okay, no longer these are separate beings. And mind, of course, is where our emotions sit. And Gosia, this is just a long introduction to my question. I would like to hear your view on this, on how much do you believe our mind and our emotions really have the power to trigger this loaded gun, to let it fire, to enable disease to manifest?
Oh, well, very good question. And obviously, having been doing what I've been doing for so many years, I would say that our emotions and our feelings are totally and absolutely crucial in maintaining our health, but also in becoming very unwell, sometimes very quickly, and sometimes over the years. And I would also like to say that absolutely genetics are very, very important parts of what we may actually look like, yes, but also what we may behave like, because within the genes, we don't only take on certain predispositions towards certain illnesses, but also to certain behaviors. And how our mother behaved when she was pregnant, even our father, yes, and our grandparents and great-grandparents also has a lot to do with how we're actually feeling right now. So we are interconnected, but we have a huge and profound ability to change that every single moment of the day. Every single moment, like we're sitting here, and for instance, Ania, there was a moment where things were not going well, and in that moment, you and me, we had a choice to get very angry, to get very fearful, to start attacking the technology, Facebook, ourselves, right? Bloody hell, I should have learned how to do this. And within seconds or minutes, you could have changed completely your body chemistry. Yeah. And I remember when I was doing live for the first time some time ago, everything that could have gone wrong have gone wrong. And people knew that we were coming on, and I got extremely upset. And because the feeling that I have slightly inherited from my ancestors as well, particularly my father, was that around when something goes wrong, it's like at the end of the world. It's panic. First reaction is panic. Okay, but so emotions are crucially important, whether how long we're going to live, how we're going to live, and how are we going to be dealing day to day with the problems that are affecting us. And I would like to make a small clarification around emotions and feelings. Now, we often use it interchangeably. Feelings, emotions, right? You can hear people actually use it like that. But psychologists actually made a very clear distinction between those two things. And I think it is quite useful to understand what they say about that, right? And so emotions are hardwired into our system. And they're often to protect us. So fear, for instance, dread, terror, some wild animal comes up, is about to pounce on you and kill you. To be afraid, it's a very good emotion to have, right? Yes. And it's the emotion is produced in amygdala in here in this part of the brain, and it almost happens instantaneously. Often the same thing happens with anger, right? Anger, it's actually a very healthy emotion, because if someone is abusing us, mistreating us, treating us badly, if things are happening in our environment which could kill us or endanger us, it's absolutely right for us to get angry, right? But what happens is, so this is emotion, okay? And we can have all sorts of emotions: guilt, sadness, pain, anger, fear, all of those could be emotions. But what happens is we start thinking about it and analyzing it and putting it into context and creating things from it that actually could put us into a very different state. So you could, for instance, be totally relaxed when things go wrong with technology, and I, for instance, could panic, okay? And so instinctively, yes, oh my God, something is going wrong, well, let's rescue ourselves. But then what we do next is dependable on our memories, our programmings, our beliefs, on what we do day to day, okay? And essentially, Ania, the bottom line is this, that we all get emotional at times, and it's very healthy. And emotions are not to be repressed, yes, and pushed away or fought against. So when people say negative emotions, it's not exactly the right way of actually describing them, okay? I would say more challenging emotions, right, to your system. But the moment when you make a decision, okay, I felt angry or fearful, and then you add love to it, a positive emotion, right? And so, for instance, when you add love to anger, you have an effective decision making and effective action. I need to change this. I need to change the situation. What do I do, right? But if you just stay with the anger and you go over and over and over and over again, it becomes toxic, and it could, in some cases, lead to illness or even death. I've seen a lot of people in my work who told me, what my father has done to me, or father or husband, whatever, I will never forgive him, never ever forgive him for this. It's unforgivable. And I asked one lady, just out of interest, I said to her, what if that anger could potentially kill you? And she said, I would rather die than forgive him. So, and this is a very extreme example, but it's happened so many times that it's important to mention it. So anger, fear, which is creating stress, they are all related to certain beliefs that we have and certain programmings and experiences that we've gone through when we're children, okay? So how we deal with it, if we don't naturally have the resilience, and very few of us actually do, right? Very few of us come from a lovely, joyful, peaceful, powerful family. We all have challenges, right, to some extent. How we deal with it will have a huge impact on our well-being day to day.
You, Gosia, have partly answered my next question, because I was going to ask you about which, in your opinion, are the key emotions. Well, as you said, not bad necessarily, because we cannot say good, bad, but key emotions that negatively impact our health. And you said feeling fear, feeling stress, that is sustained stress, feeling anger. So let's say that you answered this part of the question. So perhaps can you, outside of the answer that says, well, a therapy may help, because, okay, of course, but what can we do to address this? Imagine that, I don't know, you are in a loving relationship, you love your partner, and you get extremely angry at your partner. This emotion is harming you, but you struggle to let go of this emotion. So what you can do to address it, to kind of, to help yourself, to eliminate it quicker than in 24 hours.
Okay, so Ania, before I answer this, because this is a very, very important question, I do actually want to say that it is actually very important to stay on the first question a little bit longer. What negative emotions affect the body in what way, right? So for instance, there's two things that I want to mention. That Chinese medicine, for thousands of years ago, before they have actually had any insight into medicine or science the way we do, they have divided certain emotions as affecting certain parts of the body. So for instance, lungs, for instance, get very strongly affected by sadness and grief. And I remember years ago, my accountant, I went to see him, and I said, why didn't you pick up the phone? And he said, well, I was sick for 6 months. I had problems with my lungs. And he said, I thought I was going to die. I was so sick. And I said to him, just very gently, I said, did you get any trauma? Did you lose anybody? And he said, yeah, my mom died. How did you know? Yes. And he said, I love my mom with all my heart. She was the closest person to me in my life. And when she died, I just couldn't let go of the grief, right? So Chinese medicine talks about this. So anger affects the liver. So people who tend to be very, very angry, they weaken the liver. Okay. On the other hand, with people who drink a lot and they weaken the liver, they tend to get angry a lot. So like my father was an alcoholic, right? And he drank a lot, and he had all those outbursts of anger very often because the liver was weakened, right? You can see that a lot of people who drink, they get angry very, very, very quickly. Fear affects the kidneys, okay? So it's sort of obvious, but people who are constantly stressed, they have reduced well-being of the adrenal glands. So when we constantly, and it's physiologically, it makes sense, but also from a Chinese medicine, it also makes sense. So when you run through your body extreme amounts of cortisol and adrenaline, it depletes the well-being of your kidneys. And often people then have no energy to sustain their life, and they get very seriously sick. So the same thing happens with people who can't digest certain things in their mind. They can't accept things, and they try to control things, and they worry about things. It affects this digestion, right? So you cannot digest the food at the same time really well, and be extremely stressed. Yeah, you could do one or the other. So sometimes it's better not to eat when you're very, very stressed. And I'm sure you know about this, Ania. But I love this book. I think I must have read it 30 years ago. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, right? And at the end of the book, do you know that book, Ania? Yes, it's a classic. At the end of the book, there's all those sort of illnesses and what emotions are associated with it and what could fix it, right? So the ears and you're blocking to hearing something, the problems with eyes, you're not open to seeing something, problems with neck being too tight, too rigid, throat not expressing who you are and what you want to say, and so on and so forth. So sometimes it's useful to, when you have that book, is to actually go back and read some of the description and go, oh gosh, this is actually quite true. So the body speaks to us all the time, constantly. When people get very, very angry very often, they often have problems with their heart as well. It does affect the cardiovascular health, and sometimes people get heart attacks and all of those things. So and also cancer, when you look at the cancer, having seen those examples for so many years, cancer is an interesting one because it depends on the person. Yes, so it could be any of those emotions, depending where you have the weakest link, where you've maybe been traumatized in your life, where you have been disappointed, and you haven't managed to embrace those emotions. Where the weakest link is, if you get a trauma or a shock or disappointment, or husband leaves you, or even actually one of my ladies said that she had a houses being built around her for 5 years, and the noise, constant noise, and the drilling completely destroyed her immunity, for instance, she said. So it could be any sort of shock, or it could be even auditory shock. Yeah. So it could be any of those emotions. So that the thing is that the most important thing is, do not ignore this ease, lack of ease in your life. And even more so when actually I have a friend who was completely, she was sick with cancer, but she was incurably sick. The doctor gave her 2 weeks to live. And she decided to do everything in her power to heal herself. And you need to introduce her. You need to interview her too. I'm going to connect you. And Fiona said that she was quite resilient with all those things that were happening in her life. Okay, she lost her mother, she lost her sister. Yes, she got a bit depressed, but then she went back to life. And she said, I did everything I could. I changed my diet. And yet my cancer was really going ahead and steaming ahead. And she said the main thing that was killing her was lack of joy in her life. She wasn't excited about life. So you see, it may not be necessarily even negative feeling. It could be the lack of the positive feelings.
I got you, yes.
And one of them, that is joy. But I know we're going to be talking about the positive things later. So Ania, I'm going to answer your second question. Is that okay that I have added some extra things just before we speaking about it?
Absolutely, great kind of explanation. Thank you.
Do we have any comments? Can actually anybody see us? Right, 10 people, but nobody's saying anything. So guys, can I ask you, is it making sense what I'm saying? Is it helpful? Is it useful? Is it boring? Tell me, communicate with us, share it with your friends.
Show us a like if it's interesting and engaging, and if you have any question, ask. If we don't answer right away, we will ask at the end, but we will.
Yes. And send us some hearts, because it will produce some positive feelings, so give us some hearts and fingers. Okay. So now answering your question. So sometimes we get upset. You love someone, but they do something and you get really, really upset. And even more so, what if you're with someone who knows where to push the button and they trigger your emotion over and over and over and over again? Yes. I want to give you an example from my life. Then I share with you how I deal with it. So, one of my weakest points in my mental structure is that I get very stressed very easily when I know I'm running out of time. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if I know that I will not do something on time and I will be late, or it won't be perfect enough, therefore, I can get stressed like this. And my partner, it's not so bothered about being perfect, and he's not so bothered about being on time. He's more interested in being fun in the moment, which is right. And so when let's say we are together and I know that I may be late for something that I have agreed to be time for, then I can very quickly lose my calm and get very annoyed, first of all with him, or secondly with myself.
Of course.
That I've allowed it, that I haven't planned it. And okay, so what helps me then? Okay, it's embracing fully what I'm feeling, breathing into my body. So if I start ignoring it, the tension starts building up in my stomach, it's coming up to my throat, and then it's basically strangling me. So staying present with my body, breathing into the places and the areas in my body that where I feel most contracted, and then taking care of my mind and allowing myself to embrace the possibility that I might be late and this will not be the end of the world. So I'm already accepting the possibility. And then I'm also setting an intention that I will be on time. And then I remind myself, I ask myself, what's the most important thing in here right now? And the most important thing should be, for me, to be peaceful, right? But if I say that it is the most important thing is to be on time, I will remain stressed out. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Of course, yes. So it is rationalizing on one hand, and on the other hand, also being, of course, present, breathing, as you said. So it's not also only about rational side, it's also about this emotional.
Yes. So I'm doing my best to take care of my mind, to take care of my emotions, with actually feelings, okay? They're already feelings because they are a reaction to the first, oh my God, I'm going to, this emotion, I'm going to be late, fret, panic. And then everything I do later is an emotion, it's a feeling, because I give stories in my head. The person will not like me, they think I'm not reliable, I'm going to be rejected, I'm not going to be taken seriously. And the long story comes up, a long list of dramas, okay? That's already... Yes. So let me just say again, taking care of the breathing, taking care of my body, embracing my emotions, setting intention of how I actually want to feel, and what let me just quickly close the computer down for a moment. Yeah, and making sure that I set my intention and make 100% sure that I focus on what I want rather than what I don't want. Okay, and Ania, and I know that you will ask me this later, but I can't wait to tell you this. This is so important. We need to set the intention on how we want to be and how we want to feel first thing in the morning. So when those situations come up, that someone annoys you, that your partner annoys you, your boss annoys you, or friend, or you annoy someone, how do you want to respond? You need to set the basis, and you need to visualize it, and you need to hold the intention of how do you want to be, okay? And there is some other suggestions that I'm going to give you later. I don't want to talk constantly, but I will say a few more things later.
But it's very interesting, and I really would like perhaps all of us to out of this answer that you just gave us, take out this setting intention in the morning for how we want to feel that day. I think this helps because it can bring you back in these challenging moments to that intention and that feeling. So, of course, we spoke about this emotions that are challenging and that may affect our health. But Gosia, please now tell us top emotions for our health. What can we do what can we do? We can probably do very many different things, but what are the emotions we should focus on? The emotions we should want to feel the most and should invite them the most into our lives. One will be joy.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so some of the people who may be listening to me, they don't know about this. I've created a CD called Successful Heart CD, and I talk about it in great detail. But just the essence of what this whole CD is about, it's that there's few emotions that are scientifically researched for many years, okay? At least 30 years. They say that you can switch on your immunity response, that you can boost your immunity, you can increase your IQ, right? So you can become intelligent, you can make better decisions, you can increase the level of joy and happiness. You can switch on the killer cells. So all these sort of systems in your body that attack cancer and bacteria and fungus and all of that just within seconds from feeling that emotion. And that emotion is gratitude. Okay? And but I want to actually talk about something extremely important, which not many people actually mention when they talk about gratitude. So now gratitude is very important because it switches your attention onto your heart, right? So from your head, which tends to worry, plan potential dramas and difficulties, okay? When you drop your attention to your heart, you extend the vibrational energy of your body by many meters, and not just only you feel good, but everybody around you. So your vibration shifts within seconds of feeling gratitude. But so one of the things that people are told to do, and I also say recommend this very with great belief and passion, it's making a list of gratitudes. And the best time to make the list is actually, the good thing to do is to have a little notebook like this, okay? This sort of size notebook, and have it always with you. And when something happens that touches your heart, that you get something from someone, you make a note of it. Oh my God, I'm just grateful so much for this and that. What a lovely thing that has just happened, and you make a note of it. And then the more you focus on it, okay, the more you build the muscle for feeling good, okay, and then more you notice it. But now I'm going to mention what normally people don't talk about. So often the gratitude stays on the level of intellect still. People think, oh, I'm grateful for this. Oh, and they don't pause to feel it in their body. Okay, this makes sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
And the gratitude only boosts your immunity when you deepen it and somehow manage to feel it more deeply than just for a few seconds and just staying on your mental level, right? So I want to give you a different example, and then we come back to gratitude. So we had a chance to pop out with my boyfriend to the river and to swim a bit. Today is so hot, 38 degrees Celsius, and I was extremely grateful that I've managed to fit it in a day, and it was just so delightful, and I felt so good. So I have been stressed today, okay, because I had many things to do. But the moment I went into the river, all the stress just disappeared and dissolved. And then we came out, and I said to him, I want to do a little test with you. I said, I'm going to give you a cherry, and I want you to eat it with the maximum amount of pleasure. Okay, so when we feel pleasure, we boost our immunity through releasing of endorphins, the good feel good hormones, right? But the longer you dwell on it, on the pleasure, and the deeper you go into it, and then the more it spreads through your body, the more healing it becomes. Does it make sense?
Of course.
Yeah. So why am I talking about this before I was mentioning gratitude? So he took this cherry, and I said, I'm not going to help you. You do your best to make sure that you feel it 100 times more than you would normally feel it. Because you know when we eat quickly, you go, and we just spit the pips, and we just eat quickly, and it's nice, but it's very fleeting and it's gone. Yes. So he took the cherry, he closed his eyes. And he said, I am sucking on it. The juice is dribbling down my throat and here, mouth, and I'm warming it up. It becomes more intensified. And he said, because I have my eyes closed, I feel the pleasure. And I said, where do you feel the pleasure? And he said, just in my mouth. I said, can you spread it through the rest of your body to your right knee? Okay. And he did. And so then he said, oh my God, I feel the pleasure everywhere in my body going down to my right knee. So you see what people don't know, that they can generate the endorphins at any point, even when they eat a cherry, or even when they think of eating a cherry. Because for instance, for me, a thought of a cherry is like almost orgasmic. There is no other fruit on the planet that I love more than a cherry. I could just eat it in kilograms, okay? But how often do we stop to celebrate it, to savor it, and then what happens when you really allow yourself that pleasure, it suddenly stops just being tasty or nutritious. It actually boosts your immunity. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
It becomes therapeutical, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's go back. Let's go back to gratitude. And now if you do the same thing with gratitude, sit in the evening and make a note in your notebook. And then you close your eyes and you feel the gratitude in your heart, and you allow the gratitude to pleasurably spread through your body. It will have a lot bigger impact. So that was the point I was going to make.
No, fantastic and very interesting. And I hope our viewers also like it. And if you do, give us some thumbs up so we know that you enjoyed the answer, and that this is something that you would also like to invite to your life, because I would certainly like to invite more pleasure into my life. And this leads me to the next question. When I say that I would like to invite more pleasure into my life, it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a lot of pleasure, but it's noticing that pleasure, okay, and enjoying that pleasure. So I remember, Gosia, that in one of your Facebook lives, you said something that really stuck in my head very, very kind of deeply, and I think about it very often. You said that it's first being, then doing. That basically we should first feel right, get our energy aligned, and then act. I think this is absolutely genius and fantastic advice, and I will forever be grateful for this, because I believe that what we often do, we go into this energy of doing that is very male energy, and it's very kind of present in women's lives nowadays. Forget about being, concentrate on action, and we put a lot of effort and get very little result. Because again, we did not wait for the time to be right for us, for ourselves, for our heart, for our emotion. So do you, Gosia, agree with me that this invites a lot of stress, that if we leave that feminine part of ourselves, and we are more in doing than being, and then of course if it invites stress, then it affects our life. So would we then say that also spending more time, let's say, in this feminine energy is something that is, again, promoting health for us women?
Very good question. Ania, you're asking very, very good questions. Thank you so much. So, so first of all, I will answer this, but I want to say something about the being. So first of all, we are human beings. right? We're not actually human doings, but we're human beings. And the moment we forget about that, everything falls apart. Happiness, health, business sometimes. And why do I say this? Because, you know, in order for us to do wisely, to be smart, to do the doing wisely, we need to know where to go, and we need to know how to do it to the highest possible ability. But if we only are moving around like robots, which often we do actually, we get up, yes, and it's very sort of automatic, like, right, drink from the same cup coffee in the morning, wash your teeth with the same toothbrush, you know, you don't even need to think, you know, go to the toilet, do your business, and it's very automatic, right? And then you go to your work, and it's like we're half asleep a lot of the time. And then if people have kids, it's very stressful and everything is running around, and he's just doing. People ask you, what have you done at the weekend? And like, oh my God, I haven't done anything. And you feel guilty, right? So it's all about doing. And the social media is who did what, where, right? It's all about doing. And what happens is that we are absolutely, including me sometimes, I have to put my hand up, that we are entranced by the doing. And you see, the only way to be happy, and I'm completely convinced about this, is to give yourself space for the being, because in the being, in the stillness, you meet yourself. So what's the point running around when you don't know who you are? You don't know where your heart wants you to go. So you've just taken a deep breath in. Exactly. So first you seek meeting yourself, meeting your soul, meeting God for the people who are spiritual or religious, and meeting the stillness. And then in that stillness, not only you actually boost the immunity, bring the endorphins, because a lot of meditators, people who meditate, they say that they go into state of bliss. They don't need anything else. They don't need wine. They don't need in that moment a relationship or a person. They don't need anything else outside, right? To give them the sense of peace and happiness, which we're constantly seeking through the doing, while it's actually available through the being. So if we take care of the being first in the morning, ideally, first thing in the morning, the first 10 minutes for the busy people, and not so busy, half an hour ideally, then your day goes better. You set your intentions, you send love, you bless your day, you bless the people you're going to meet, and you receive information. I ask my intuition in the morning, what have you got for me? What do I need to know today? And then I ask my intuition, what do I need to do? Right? And if I don't ask, and if I don't sit in stillness, and if I don't go into being, my day is quite often stressful. It's a bit chaotic.
Yes, like when they say that you should meditate for 20 minutes a day, unless you don't have time, then you should meditate for 1 hour.
Very good saying.
I love it. When we need it most, right? When we are running around, when we are busy, when we are in the doing, is when we need to meditate, or to whatever form of, you know, for some people it's, for my boyfriend, this is surfing is his meditation, right? So we all have our own ways. So because we were talking about doing, this leads me to the next question, because I get you see, I've mentioned at the beginning that I work with busy professional ladies. One of the reasons why I've chosen this segment to work with is that I have been myself a very busy professional lady, and everything that I talk about with my clients is very close to my heart, and I speak out of my heart, and I feel what they share with me. So doing is very familiar for me. I feel amazing in the doing space, and what I find is that women very often are in this doing energy out of fear. That we fear that we may not be good enough at our jobs, that we may not be good enough wives or mothers, that we are not bringing our children in a good enough way. So it's all about fear, but also, you know, it's about, I observed it so often that women tend to or choose to stay in the doing energy because being is about hearing yourself. And then hearing yourself is surrounded by a lot of fear. Because you are almost like you are asking your intuition in the morning, what do you want me to do today? What you've got for me today? You know, I know hundreds of women who would be very scared to ask themselves this question. So you are an expert on fear, and your book is about overcoming fear. So again, linking it back to our health, what would we say here about this fear in connection to our energy and so on?
Again, Anya, extremely good question and very good link. And I want to actually say this again because you said it so beautifully, and I want to say this again. One of the reasons why women, men as well actually, but women particularly, are so greatly busy and they run around like crazy is because they are scared of meeting themselves. So it's easier to run around and help everybody else and do everything else and answer all the emails and see who else needs help, rather than sit down, put your hand on your heart and say to yourself, I love you. Now, what do you need now? What would you love to see happening in this situation? And the answer, we're sometimes scared of the answers, but particularly, you know, fear of not being good enough and fear of failure, fear of not being perfect, fear of being judged and criticized. Those fears definitely tell us, come on, if you're just a bit more busy and if you do a little bit better, then you will be loved. So it's very linked with being wanted, accepted, worthy, appreciated, right? But essentially loved. So you see, the antidote always for all of those problems is love. So if you take a bit of love, okay, and you drop it to any of those fears, they will slowly start dissolving. So it's love and intention. So when you actually notice that you feel afraid of, oh my God, this is not going to be perfect, the best thing to do is take yourself on the side. Most likely who you'll be taking on to the side is your little girl. Give her a hug and say, hey, you know, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you. I hold you back here. I'm holding your back. I've got your back. It's going to be fun. I'm supporting you. So giving yourself a hug and holding yourself and talking to yourself, talking to the little girl who believes she's not good enough, is actually a very useful thing to do. And also the cheesy thing, saying to yourself as often as you can, I love you, particularly when you're looking into the mirror. So do not ever waste an opportunity when you go to the toilet ever again in your bloody life. When you go to the toilet, from now on, I want you to promise me, and you, Anna, and you too, and me too, every time you go to the toilet, from now on, please remember my name, my face. Look into the mirror and say, I love you. Okay, I love you. Say it out loud or quietly, depending how many people in the toilet, right? So, okay, so the antidote is always love, and the other antidote for all of those running around, and I'm coming back to what I said earlier, in the morning when you're setting your intentions for the day. By the way, one of the reasons why people get stressed is they don't have very clear purposes or intentions for the day, what they want to achieve, and if they have, they're unrealistic and there's too many things on the list. Okay, so if you have, so it's different to having goals. You have intentions, and the most important things should be 2 or 3, no more. Otherwise the to-do list. So if you visualize it already done, okay, this is what I want to achieve today, this is what I want to do successfully. Visualize it successfully being delivered, people being happy, you being happy. But then you always need to infuse it with the feeling. You need to set the intention of how you want to feel then and throughout your whole day. So you see, if you see yourself moving peacefully and quietly throughout your day, softly and gently, and speaking to people tenderly, with tenderness and softness and focus, being more in the yin and more feminine energy, right? If you visualize yourself doing this, your brain will catch up and will start delivering it. Because if you don't visualize this, if you don't show your body how it looks like, it will not know how to do it. Because maybe you've never done it before, right? Or someone else. So how is your body going to fulfill this? So your synapses need to get used to, you know, by repeating it over and over again, first in your mind, set the intention of how you want to feel, as well as what you want to achieve in a day. Yeah? Did it answer your question?
Yes, Kosha, thank you. And I also would like to add here from my personal experience, the time I've learned that whenever we come across a challenging moment in our day, if we remember to stop even for just 10 seconds and breathe, that already resets a lot in our body and makes the response different. And it's definitely about being, I know. We spoke about a lot of things, and what I intend to do with this Better You by Ania series, with my experts on the other end, is to leave the viewers with some top tips from the expert. Tips that will be easy to implement and that will be possible to implement right away. And to the people listening, I would like to say that don't feel that if we share 4 tips today, you necessarily have to implement all for tomorrow, because it's all about little steps. This is what also happens in my health coaching, a practice that I intend to teach women I work with to make very small, very gentle changes, because these changes are lasting changes. So Gosha, I would like to ask you now to share 3-4 things that you would like to recommend for me, for the viewers, for the ladies that will watch it later, to to implement when they wake up tomorrow morning.
Okay, so for the ladies, particularly the busy ladies, what I would love you to do is to do a little challenge. Okay, challenge is maybe the wrong word, but an experiment, and it's actually, let's call it a pleasure experiment. Okay, so every day from today onwards for 30 days, you'd give yourself a homework, however you prefer to call it, to take care of the level of pleasure and joy that you're experiencing in your life. Okay, so there is a little exercise that helps you to decide what it is. So for instance, if you do this exercise and start the sentence and it goes like this: if I allowed myself more joy in my life, I would. And you write the answer, and then you go to the next one: if I allowed myself more joy in my life. And you go to the next one, and you keep on writing and writing and writing and writing. And okay, so you see all these things that will be on your list. Often people say, I'll go for a walk every day, even short one. I would speak to myself with more kindness. I'll call my friend. I will forgive someone. I would go dancing. Whatever. I would, when I drink my coffee or whatever I drink, I'll give myself more time and I would read my favorite magazine or whatever that is. And so I would love you to take one thing from that list, okay, and do it every day, but do it with pausing before, during, and after. So this is like a celebration. If you want to do more of those things in a day, that's beautiful, okay? But when let's just say that you decide that you go dancing, okay? For that particular day, you go dancing. So I want you to stop before you walk into the dance class. Say, this is for you, my darling. I'm giving you this pleasure moment. We are boosting endorphins here because I love you and I want you to feel good. I want your life to be joyous, okay? So you speak to yourself, and then when you're there, allow yourself to feel pleasure on a much deeper level. And how to do that is through breathing, through being very present. And whenever you feel pleasure, allow yourself to spread it through your body, like the example I gave you with the cherry, right? And then once you finish, you're going home, stop for a moment then, or maybe even just before you go to sleep, and review the pleasure, and it will be alive again in you, right? So that will be a moment. But it could be as short as eating something favorite, or a moment of meditation, or giving yourself a facial, or giving yourself a little massage, or whatever that is, you know what gives you pleasure. Okay, so this is my tip number one. Okay, and for women is so important because we very rarely, particularly when women become mothers, we particularly very rarely think that we deserve or we have time to be having any pleasure whatsoever, right? Number two is when you are in the moment, when normally you're busy, but you could give yourself some time of stillness, particularly on a train. So instead of looking at your social media and reading text messages or sending emails, I would love you to offer yourself a few moments, ideally at least 5 minutes, to be still and breathe. You can even close your eyes if that's possible. Don't fall asleep if you're standing on a train. But breathe through your heart. Be still and meet yourself. You could ask yourself, how am I feeling and what do I need right now? So give yourself those moments. You know, sometimes women who are extremely busy and they say to me, you know, I don't have any time at work at all to be alone. I said, so go to the toilet, close the door. Yes, and then meet yourself, you know, check how you're feeling, breathe into your heart, see what you need, okay? So give yourself, where you would not maybe normally think of this, okay? Particularly before you eat your lunch, okay? You don't maybe think, oh, let me grab something and blah, blah, blah. So give yourself a few pauses before you eat. So then your digestion will work a little bit better, okay? So the second tip is the meeting yourself and slowing. Essentially, it's about slowing down, right? And the third one is I'm just hesitating because there's so many things I want to talk about. So the decision, what is the thing that would make the biggest difference? I probably would say, I'll go back to what I've said earlier in the morning. Set the intention in the morning for how you want to see, how you want to feel. See yourself succeeding at the things you want to succeed. And then you visualize yourself and feel how you want to feel. And if you can't do that before you leave home, then do it on the public transport. If you can't still do that, then before you walk into the office or wherever you're going, stop for a moment, look into the sky, set your intention. See, if I don't have time to do that in the morning, which very rarely happens because I plan my life, so I do have time to do that because I know the power of it. If I don't have time, I make the time a bit later in the day. Okay, so make sure that you set your intention, your loving intention for how your day, how you want the day to be. But particularly also for not just for the day, but for everything you do. So I set the intention before we went on the live. I send love to every person who's going to listen to it. I send love and I visualized how they feel a week, month, a year later, and I blessed everybody. So, so I always try to do everything I do in my life with a very clear, loving intention. So those are my 3 tips. I hope not too many.
No, thank you so much. And I tell you this, you know, when you spoke, it reminded me of a situation example from my life when you spoke about the fact that very often you hear from these busy ladies that they don't have time. And I had a situation at some stage in my life where I was working with a particularly highly emotional leader, a person that had the power to destroy your day within 5 minutes meeting, okay? And I remember, and this is what this person was exactly doing to me. Every meeting, my day was over. Sometimes tears, sometimes anger, it would depend. And then I got an advice from someone that someone said to me, every time you are going to speak to this person, go lock yourself in the toilet, breathe, just breathe, and set the intention for the meeting. Basically, my intention was always that I will handle it, that I will be calm, and that I will be breathing deep in my stomach as he's speaking and having a mental fit effectively. And you know, I didn't have time for this, but I started making time for this. Even if I got a message coming to me, I have to see you now. My now was through the bathroom. I would stop there for 2 minutes, go breathe, set the intention, go into the office, and the person would be having a go at me, or, you know, basically it was their personality. It really didn't have much to do with me or greater context. It was the personality. And I remember sitting there and breathing, just breathing and not saying anything. And I could actually see this person even adapting to me. Like their voice would you know, go more quiet, and they would, because I didn't allow this person to, or I didn't engage into this, you know, circle of basically, you know, running after each other and trying to fight, right? It's also the power, but not through fighting, but the power through breathing, I would say. Very interesting.
This is such a powerful example. Ania, thank you so much for sharing this, because you've just given a beautiful example of how the theory actually works in situations of before. So your emotion was natural. Someone is attacking you, so you either run, or you basically either escape or you attack, right? That's what the animal would do. So normally, but you couldn't escape, right? Because you have to stay there. You couldn't attack him because you lose your job, so you froze, right? And then, but then you see, you reprogrammed your brain to react differently, and this is the beauty, where we have power over what happens in our biology, in our chemistry, right? So you've shifted it from having cortisol flowing in your body and adrenaline to possibly even endorphins, right? So it proves the point that no matter.
I really enjoyed seeing that, you know, I actually have power to influence this situation, whereas before I thought I was powerless and I was a victim of the situation. Suddenly this changed to me feeling like I was in charge of the situation, or of this, you know. So this is why, Gosia, I do strongly feel very grateful for everything that you shared with us. I know that very many people will be very interested to hear about what we were talking here. Many people told me that they couldn't join, that they would listen later. I will post this session on my page. So, and I will also, I included a link. Do you want to maybe say something about the link that we included in the description of this Facebook Live?
Yes, Anna, thank you. So I am including there for you a free recording of a meditation I've recorded quite a few years ago, which is a healing meditation, which sends love to every area of your body and spreads the feeling good, the endorphins all the way through your body. So it's very powerful, very healing. So if you want to give yourself a bit of a boost when you've maybe had a little bit stressful day, you can do that. And I bless you. And this is another thing that actually boosts your immunity, makes you feel good. Wish other people well. So yes, be grateful, but send people love, and wherever you go, bless them. So I'm blessing you, Ania, with a very happy, successful career. So you can, may you touch millions of women with health and beauty and happiness and peace. May you be extremely successful. And everybody who's listening to us, I wish you peaceful lives, healthy lives, and filled with joy.
Thank you so much. And perhaps just before we finish, I will show one more time your book, So I bought it on Amazon, and this is how I know it's available there. I live in Portugal now, and it arrived within 2 days, and the book is fantastic. It's the expansion game, so how to overcome your fears and how to transform your fear into brilliance. And I would like to say something about this, because when I got the book out of the box, I read the expansion game, a powerful method to transform your fear into billionaire. I thought, great.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So, and then Gosha, I remember we spoke, and you said that perhaps this is like, already an intention. Universe is working on this, and I strongly believe to this day when I look at this, it says billionaire. So
very good. So it is.
Okay, Gosha, look, thank you so very much. This was the first, as I said, this was the very first in the series. I know that people were joining, dropping off, I will have to test the best time also for my series. And Kasia is saying thank you. Thank you for joining. And for those who joined late, I can see Helena, my actually acupuncturist. Thank you for joining, Helena. Please watch it. It will be posted on my page in few minutes, a few seconds probably. And once again, thank you so very much. Gosha, I will be forever grateful for your time. And thank you for the time to all my friends that joined and people I don't know but that can become my friends if they like my page. So thank you so very much. And yes, have a good night. And perhaps I should say, I bless you too. Thank you so much.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.